Hello and welcome everyone to another episode of the OnReviewCast. I'm your host here, Ash. So guys, welcome back. All you long time listeners and new time listeners too. It's your number one go-to show for all things media. And like I said before, I'm your host Ash. And today we're taking a look at Squid Game Season 3, Episode 4 of Squid Game. And like every other episode, we start our episode off with the episode breakdown. And today's episode is called 222. It is the fourth, courtesy of fan, by the way, yeah. It's the fourth episode of the season 3 of Netflix series Squid Game, and it's the 28th episode overall. Synopsis: even Gi-hun supports Juni amid rising tensions. She must make a pivotal decision. Before the final game, the frontman gives Gi-hun an ultimatum. Ooh. Indeed he does. If I was to go ahead and talk like this, indeed he does. Anyway, okay, so this episode, guys, if you've never seen here, been here before on the OnReviewCast, once again, welcome. But this is the show where I watch an episode of, a series or a drama, and I go ahead and I break it down and give my perspectives, and I give my little funny antics, and I do my little wacky fucking accents and whatnot, and get to laugh and enjoy and listen to me, but let's get the show started here. Anyway, so yeah, this episode was, I think, overall this episode was really, I think, pivotal to like the Squid Game kind of like world, and if you think about it, kind of had to happen. Not as death-defying as one of the other previous games, but we are in the jump rope game of Squid Game, another childhood, wonderfully deadly childhood game that one played as a child. They somehow found a way to make absolutely terrifying, absolutely terrifying, and absolutely devastating in the name of art. For the name of art, piece. So the episode basically picks up basically right where the other one left off, where this asshole is basically trying to throw people off the bridge, as we last remembered, and saying that this is how you play the game. This is how we play the game, by getting people and kicking off people off this bridge that are making it to the other side. Just as a reminder, guys, this game is the jump rope, like I said, and they're basically on this tiny little narrow edge. They have to get from one point to the other side, and this big thick rope is just swinging up in the air, and they have to continuously jump to make sure to try to make it onto the other side. And there's basically no path to go around or anything, so that is basically going in a straight line. And the first guy that makes it across, like I said before, I mentioned in the other episode, basically starts kicking motherfuckers off this fucking thing as soon as they try to get to the other side. And it's like, what the fuck, man? What the fuck? Anyway, so once he starts doing this, obviously it causes a whole panic and pile up within the line. So no one can essentially move once everybody catches on to like essentially what he's doing, right? And so because he's kicking people to the other sides, so some people, because of this, they panic or whatever, etc. And some of them end up getting tossed off of this narrow thing and falling essentially ultimate to the death, until one player decides to say like, you know what, don't want to do this. Let me turn around, and she convinces the other player behind her to turn around and tell her to go back. The guy she convinces to turn around ends up falling to his death because he's trying to basically adjust for turning around and going back the way that he essentially came. And she actually is able to make it back to the other side, but surprise, they're doing the same thing on the other side. They just kicking motherfuckers off because they've learned now that once we kill more people, we can get more money. The greed of man, right? Yeah, greed of man. So anyway, so this obviously puts a damper in Gi-hun's plan of trying to save 222, the girl, the mother of the child, baby, who he's basically essentially looking after, which I will maintain he should have probably just taken her to the other side with her when he had first gone. Somehow I'm thinking of like the ways that he could have done that. I'm thinking like he could have done like a piggyback kind of thing, but that was my idea, which I was thinking. But anyway, like it turns out, guys, the crypto guy that we've been mentioning throughout this entire series is the father of that child. And the father of that child is now talking to Juni, the baby mama, the baby mama, and basically trying to talk her to basically convince her to accept his help. The only thing is Joni's having none of that shit. And she's saying that, no, you know what? I'll do this on my own. We don't want anything from you. Me and my baby are basically fine. All independence towards you. She want to be a strong, independent woman that don't need no man. It's just, if that's what you want to do, cool. And you just want to forfeit your life here or potentially, that's cool. But I mean, I think it is worth crediting that he did attempt to at least try to come up with some kind of basically plan to maybe save her, but she was just having none of it. Meanwhile, Ginsu, the guy that's tripping on fucking acid or whatever the fuck it is, basically the drugs or whatever it is, away from Namgyu, that died early. He actually had the drug and he took that, and he is tripping shit while he is jumping rope, trying to essentially survive this ordeal. And I don't know about you guys, but I think that I wouldn't want to be high during a death-defying jump rope that is so high up on skyscraper fucking type levels, for concentrating and essentially jumping this rope. So the crypto guy actually abandons Judy, and because of her legs all fucked up, and I think Junie makes the ultimate decision to sacrifice her life, actually. Sorry, I think I skipped over something though. They dealt with the the two guys that were kicking people off. It was the first guy that was on the other end, with the lady was like, go back. He ended up making it towards the other side and going and reaching to the other side, and then Gion basically essentially gets in a scuffle with the other guy that was kicking people off at the other end at the finish of it, and he ends up throwing him onto the platform which they have to get across, and the fucking metal-based rope hits the shit out of this dude, and he goes flying. And he goes flying all the way back, basically back down, hitting the ground, ending his life. It's fucking brutal. Anyway, so at this point, like, Junie has more than a minute to essentially get across this thing. So she had enough time to essentially make it across. But I think she knew with her busted up leg that, this is the end of the game for me. This is where my story ends, kind of deal. And she ends up sacrificing her life, and that's essentially what basically happened. Which, I mean, dude, honestly, there was a way to get across, to make it across to the other side. I think with her leg kind of busted up like that, she could have. One of the things I was thinking of was like, she could have got into the platform, the very narrow platform, and climbed underneath it. They did a zoom out, and they showed the actual platform and how it looked. There was enough room for her to just monkey bar across this thing, without actually having to jump and then climbing back up on the other side. There was multiple things I think that they could have done. She didn't have to die there, but she just chose, and I think they did it for the story-wise, and keep you kind of captivated in kind of this deal of the player 222 dying. It also plays into what actually happens, as we're going to get into very much. So it's a very, very emotional moment, and gut-wrenching for Gion, who wanted to save her, to watching her jump off of this platform and falling essentially to her death. Poetic, but at the same time very much so avoidable, in my opinion. But I guess this is essentially where they are, where they essentially chose to be in that. So we switch scenes, and we actually get a chance to see, the soldier that was who was doing all the betrayals. We get a chance to catch up with her, as well as the individual who she's basically trying to help out, that has the baby inside of the hospital, which they're trying to get back to and essentially save. And this is I kind of noticed something on the second watch of this, because again, this is on review, right? I noticed that I want to just mention, I noticed that during this encounter or whatever, when they went to go essentially try to escape from this place, it looked like they were basically in the clear, in the home free, in the home stretch to escape from this place, but the guy who's lieutenant to the front man is basically like, hey, bring the boat back. You'll never fucking make it. And she's like, you don't want me to do that. There's you and I both don't want that to happen. And I was wondering why at first, like, she said that. It didn't really make any sense. But then he's like, oh, don't worry. I essentially know where the escapee player of the game, prisoner of the game, is essentially going, so it's not really a big deal if you guys even leave this island. We'll just basically saying we'll hunt you down anyway, right? And the second he said that, it was kind of like, I kind of just clicked for me. I was like, oh, well, now we got to kill you, because you basically essentially know where they're headed and where they're going, and basically to protect this little girl and to make sure that she is safe and all right, they're gonna have to take care of him. So she fucking, like a badass, turns this boat around. She's like, you know what, no, we gotta deal with this. So let me turn this boat around. You get the safety in the shore. I'm gonna kill this motherfucker. Basically that's how it goes down. And the sheer badassery of that, I just gotta commend. And that was kind of cool. That was definitely kind of cool. In the next couple of scenes, we actually see the individuals come back from the game, and it's like definitely a smaller litter now of them, and everybody comes back looking all shocked and basically devastated. And similar to the other Squid Game that we had before, the beds of all the dead basically have been removed, and it looks like this place is a more desolate open area, and it's more isolated, and it's kind of like more desolate. I think that was a part of, because like we'll get into it like in a few seconds here, but like I think that was a part and that part in itself is part of like kind of like psychological attack, I want to say, on the players, and how they have to think about the wider scope and basically the weight of essentially not only just, you know, the prize and the riches of the amount of money that they're getting, but the weight of what it essentially took to actually get there. That place, when they essentially went in there first, was filled with beds. It literally like a mini structures of beds, the amount of people that were, you know, staying there, and to like know that all of these people died just so you could achieve your goal, I think is kind of a psychological attack in itself from these, you know, individuals that are basically higher up. Speaking of which, we actually get a scene with them, and they're talking about how they're concerned and they're worried about how the next essentially game will pretty much go, and how the existence of this child, this baby now, is into play, and now what happens is they replace the baby in the place of its mother, so essentially reviving her character, reviving her number, and they essentially do that. I wanted to bring up something though, like during this, they put so much faith in the front man and his psychological ability to anticipate the way that the players are actually going to go about and actually do this, which I find very fascinating, because like it tells two things. One, this motherfucker has been doing this a long time. Clearly been doing this a long time. He knows exactly the way that they're gonna act or react, and the things that they're essentially going to do, and that just basically tells the motherfucking times he's been through this, the motherfucking people he's basically killed, and how predictable essentially people are. And it kind of foreshadows something that we'll talk about later on in the episode when Guillaume has the opportunity to eliminate some players, but you know, that's more towards the end of the episode. Anyway, one, it shows how he can anticipate their every move, but also how he can most likely manipulate. The group as a whole of higher ups, rich motherfuckers of higher ups that basically watch the game and has basically, I guess, it seems like final say over what happens within the game, because they're viewing it for their entertainment. And I found he's his title is the front man, but really, I mean, essentially, he's the middleman, if anything. He's working both sides. That's how he's able to work both sides, anticipating the movements of the players, and also kind of sort of almost like playing he could, if he wanted to, play the those rich fucks that are basically controlling the game. Anyway, something else I wanted to mention real quick too, I guess, within this, now that they returned to the dorms. Now that they return to the dorms, we actually get to see what's been the dorms essentially were hiding, and it was similar to the previous episode of the Squid Games, where we saw all the games that were essentially played, but we didn't really have, we still didn't really know what the games they were playing on the other one, but more or less so in this one, in that, more or less so in the first one, we didn't know which game, when the games they were playing, and they were only revealed that all the games that they were playing was essentially within the facility themselves. But in this season 2, when all the beds are removed, all there are actually letters instead of the actual games that were played, and the letters read, it's kind of hard to pronounce it. It's Casta Odium or something like that. And something I did was I actually looked this up, and I was kind of like, well, what exactly does that mean? Like, why did they do that? Like, what does it mean? Why did they do that? Okay, the letters in the back of it means in the dormitory hall, spell out the Latin phrase "Hode mihi cras tibi," which basically means today it's me, tomorrow it's you. It's a morbid reminder of mobility found on old tombstones, foreshadowing the inevitable death for all players in the deadly games. And I thought that was actually kind of cool. So paying homage to not only what they did in the first Squid Games, but this deadly haunting message that actually that was in the room. And something to also consider is that, like, I mean, they're on the island right now. They're doing this for or whatever it is. I guess they could have painted over the room, but maybe they have multiple islands, and most likely they do because of what we know in the future. They have multiple islands that, like, they have multiple islands that basically have these. Well, proof almost that they have multiple islands that have these different messages and these different things within the different facilities, rather than that of season 1, where they told you which game we were playing. But the different facilities basically denotes like how wide and how far their reach essentially goes, essentially as an organization. Anyway, I thought that was kind of interesting, kind of cool, and just shows how season 2 Gion, we're gonna get these fucks, we're gonna take him to the man. So fucking stupid. Like, you don't know the understand the gravity of which he thought that 8 people could take down like an army. Like, what are you thinking, dude? Anyway, so the episode essentially continues, and they come in, they basically say that there are 9 players left as opposed to the 8 players, and because everybody there thought basically like, what the hell was going on? I see only 8 players, and then they forgot to count the baby. But once they realized that this baby was a part of the game, everybody starts to lose their fucking mind, and like, they were quick, like Super Saiyan speed flash quick, to turn on the baby and be like, you know what, we need to destroy this baby. How dare this baby be a part of this game that it didn't go through what we went through, and murder all these people and do all this other stuff and blah 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 blah. And they start and the gun, and one of the guards basically essentially shoots the gun into the air and basically tells them that there will be no further infighting, within the fucking game between the players. And it basically calms them down. But I just found it very interesting how they would be so quick to snap on a dime, to snap and lose their fucking minds. They just basically turned on a helpless, defenseless child who didn't choose whatsoever to be a part of this, didn't choose to do this whatsoever. It's amazing. And again, as sad as it is to say, I think it's truth though. That's society. They don't care what you come from, where you are, how old you are, if you're a baby, if you're a child, man, old man, whatever it is. They will treat you like shit if it gets them paid. They'll do it. Next couple of scenes actually introduces the guy that's investigating, Mr. Park, and essentially he's having a back and forth. There was this very idiotic scene of him talking with this police officer who didn't essentially understand like what the fuck the dire situation that not only Guillaume faces, but the many choices and the many challenges that many people have been facing because of this organization. So they weren't hearing him. They weren't ready to hear him out. And he essentially, first of all, before anything happens, they contact Mr. Park, which stupidly by the police, they contact him by the Mr. Park, and they say like, hey, someone's been broken into your house and they murdered your dog when your dog was trying to basically protect your house and blah, 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 and all this other stuff. And Mr. Park is like, one thing I wish that they had changed in this piece of dialogue, they were like, he was like, someone broke into my place, huh? It's like, well, can you tell me who it was? And he's like, it was blah, 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 blah. Never would happen. That would never would happen. No, because in a real life situation, like the police aren't supposed to do that. They are, especially in an ongoing active investigation, they're never supposed to divulge any kind of like information about the person that they are having custody, suspect, or whatever it is. It doesn't matter if they rob you, steal from you, assault you, or whatever it is. They wouldn't go out of there, even if you aren't there, right there and then. Just in general, they probably just wouldn't give you any information about that other individual. Like it would scrutinize and not scrutinize, but like potentially ruin their investigation of anything that's going on. So I thought that was kind of. Yeah, but they needed to do that, I guess, to essentially progress the scene so he can know, so to cause some tension, I think, within the scene. So they call this guy, and now he knows that his stuff's basically being broken into. And the guy that has been investigating him, it's a funny moment. He is able to MacGyver his way and trick his way into basically getting his phone back, and he calls the detective who was on the boat with Mr. Park, who is the traitor, and he's kind of like, listen, he's a traitor, we have evidence, blah, blah, blah. And so he's able to warn him just enough time, like literally seconds before Mr. Park decides to commit this mass murder on this fucking boat, killing everybody, wiping out everybody. And he's even able to kill and wipe out the main guy, the guy that's supposed to look like a fucking hero in this goddamn adventure that they're going through. He almost manages to kill him. He doesn't kill him. He almost manages to kill him. And when he is on basically the verge of killing him, he turns around, and that's when the detective essentially strikes him with the harpoon, just like a whale. It's a Moby Dick or Free Willy. Just fucking strikes him with this the spare gun, and the spare gun goes right in his heart, and he is killed essentially right there and then on that boat. I think I really had so much to say about that. That was I kind of saw it coming. I think we all essentially saw it coming. We all knew that guy was a traitor from like the beginning. But from the second we met him, I think I might have said this in a few episodes back. First time we met Mr. Park with this guy on the boat, I was like, who the fuck is this? I was like, I don't know who you are. You found him washed up somewhere, blah, 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 all this other stuff. And I was like, I'm already suspicious of you. Because why wouldn't they have just like either located your body from the island that you were on before, set you up with a sailor or a driver, and then take you out there? Why would this random sailor, just be out there just to take? It doesn't seem necessarily plausible. Anyway, we switch back to what's happening. It was in the Squid Game, and it's fancy dinner night. It's fancy dinner night at the Squid Game. This is the point in the game where they have a few days left, and they are offering them a hot, complimentary, free. Well, it's called free complimentary. It's free, yeah. A hot meal and lots of wine to essentially drink, so they can be full and eat free and be free and be merry, essentially. And even the baby 222 is eating some kind of, I guess, formulaic milk that they had, which makes me think, a couple of things. How the fuck did they get this fucking thing down here for the baby? It looked like it was made as a case. They brought it in a case, and they brought a heater or a warmer for it, and it looked like it was like designed for a baby. Like it was designed for the baby. And I'm kind of like, what the were they anticipating this weather? They're on an island. How the fuck did they get these things, right? Anyway, so during the course of this, the voting happens, and like I'm not going to say too much about this because we all know what's going to happen. It's a landslide for everybody to basically stay, just like how the front man had predicted, and it's an unanimous vote for everybody to essentially continue the game. And upon continuing the game, they everybody essentially goes to bed with full bellies and wine and drinking in their stomach. And I say that specifically because of this couple of scenes that happens next, where before they actually sleep, they're plotting to kill. We all know they verbally say this towards the audience, and I think almost loud enough for fucking Song Gi-yeon to actually hear this shit. They're like, we're gonna murder that baby and him and the guy over there that's basically the druggie. Those are the three people that we're gonna basically essentially decide to murder tomorrow, because we're allowed to do that when we take a vote and choose which ones we essentially want to eliminate, and we all get to keep the money at the end of the day. Now, plot armor and plot energy will dictate that Gi-yeon somehow must survive this. So at the time watching it on first watch, it was very, very interesting to see like how this motherfucker is basically gonna get out of this one, or not only how are you gonna get out of this, but like I mean, like this looks like a pretty ironclad kind of thing, because if I was in their shoes, right? If I was in their shoes in their predicament, essentially, I would think that like this is a lock. Like I got it. Me and the boys got this. This is we're all in. We got this, and this is really gonna work, and we can just end the game right there and then with the remaining players that we got right there. That's it. It's over. Just gotta get rid of these three people. And they all agree to this. So but luckily in the middle of the night, the front man, aka the Gi-yeon's friend, who he had made 001, comes up to him and he's like, hey, look, they're planning on killing you tomorrow, and take this knife and slit their throats tomorrow. While they're in their sleep, because everybody's gonna be fat and drunk off of wine right now. So that nobody's basically essentially gonna hear you coming. And if there's only two of you in the game, there's no way that the two of you, when I say two of you, I mean him and the baby. There's no way that we can continue the game with basically essentially only two of you. Now, he says to essentially do that, and when seeing his face though, Gi-yeon gets so upset, takes the knife out, and he gets ready to stab him, and he essentially like, well, he's like, you can go ahead and kill me if you want to, but it's gonna be the same situation to just get someone to replace me, and the games will continue as is tomorrow. Making some really good points here. I think that Gi-yeon and Gi-yeon doesn't stab him, so it proves that he's learning. He's learning. It proves that he's learning. It proves that he's wising up. He's getting a little smarter. But yeah, and then essentially Gi-yeon gets so pissed at the fact that because essentially he realizes he's been manipulated this entire time, right? And he essentially basically never stood a chance, and he decides not to attack the front man, and he decides to sheath the blade. I think walk out of the room, and for the most part, guys, that's essentially the end of the episode. Yeah, I mean, this episode was really, really, it was okay. It wasn't like one of the more, I guess, want to say strongest or stronger episodes. I feel like watching it on second watch, what should have happened was that Gi-yeon should have, the episode should have ended with Juni's death. I think that's with the previous episode. The previous episode should have essentially landed on our left and given Gi-yeon's, like I said, for first watch, given on Gi-yeon's personality, I would have thought that he would have not have done that, and it doesn't look like, because he's not interested in killing. I think that's what it is, more or less. He's just not interested in killing. He's not interested in, it's definitely not hurting people. And admirable trait to have, but I don't know how admirable it is in Squid Game, because if I was there and if I was in it, I don't know if I'd be able to stop myself from saying, you know what, let's just make this easier. Do you know what I mean? Like, wait, guys, let me know in the comments. Would you have chosen to follow the frontman's instruction and kill those people in their sleep? You know what I mean? Like, I mean, we don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. We don't know. And at this point, we don't know. Well, we know, because we've seen it. It's on review right now. But like, in that situation, we didn't know what was going to happen. But yeah, I mean, let me know what you think in the comments. Jumping right into it, we're gonna move into Ash's favorite scenes. Oh yeah. Ash's favorite scenes. All right, honestly, this is really good. I think I'm gonna go with, coming in at number 3 for my favorite scenes, I think is definitely gonna be the shootout, actually. Yeah, with Park. He just went in there and he just loaded everybody up. He just like came in there with that machine gun and he just mowed them down, man. It's crazy. And I think the scenes, brutal scenes like that, are we kind of are reminded that even outside of the games, you know, this world can be deadly. You don't know who's working for, you know, the island group that are kidnapping people and forcing people to play these games. Honestly, you really don't know. It's coming in at number 2. I think it's the I didn't talk about it so much, but I think it's the scene where the detective, when he goes into the hospital and they're in the hospital and he's trying to get his phone back, and because that was so funny, and he's like, let me use facial recognition to basically unlock my phone, and he basically puts his face in front of his phone, and then he uses the opportunity to snag the phone away from him and make a phone call towards the detective. So it's basically essentially saves his life. I thought that was funny when he's just running from the detective. He's like, he's running. It's like Siri call the detective, and he's just running and he's screaming into the phone while he's trying to essentially warn him that, you know, this guy's not a good guy. I think number 2. Coming at number 1 for Ash's favorite scenes is the conversation with the front man and Guion. I mean, like, because we know Guion is a good person, and it kind of comes full circle back to the end of season 1, where him and young Eel, I want to say, the old man was you know, had that conversation about wondering if people are actually good or inherently good or inherently bad, etc. And I think it comes full circle, and I think that, you know, despite their differences at the beginning, he's actually giving him a chance to essentially live, because of they're 2 different ideals and they're clashing. That's essentially what it is. And we get to see if, you know, it leaves us on a cliffhanger, but we get the question. But the question is, has Gi-hun really learned? Has Gi-hun really understood the lesson, the harsh lesson that some people are greedy and essentially not worth saving? But yeah, that's what's gonna do it for Ash's favorite scene. Jumping into the on review score. This episode, I think it's a 3. It wasn't like fantastic out of 5. 3 out of 5. It wasn't like the most fantastic epic episode, but there are some good moments in the end. Definitely progressed the story along. Brilliant acting as always from the actors, and some of the music definitely was actually good at the beginning when they were playing Jump Rope. There was some rock stuff in there. That was actually kind of cool. But yeah, guys, it's gonna basically do it for the end of the episode of the OnReviewCast. Thank you so much for watching, and if you stick with me all the way through this entire thing, you've been listening to my voice. Hopefully you didn't get too bored. You enjoyed it. Thank you so much for sticking around. And don't forget to, you know, check out some of my music in Ash the Anomaly and Anomaly Beats. We definitely have some you know, some rock and rap stuff coming out, guys. I would definitely pay attention to those. Listen, it's coming and it's gonna be great. I would look out for that. Guys, don't forget also to check us on all of our all of our socials, you know, the Facebook, the Instagram, the Twitter, all that fun stuff. Check us out there. Like us on you know, at the OnReviewCast, definitely on Twitter, and you know, all those other good things. And guys, don't forget to you know, like and subscribe in this video, and lastly, be safe, be kind, be you. Take care.